Well, good evening, folks. This is Dave Schmidt. I'm your host here again tonight on the Sedona Connection. This is our September 18th program. I want to welcome everybody that's joining me here now. Yes, it's showtime here at my home in Sedona, and it's always this nice and wonderful place to be. So, yeah. Okay, well, with that, I'm going to get right into what's happening again with the currency exchange. Well, folks, now remember, we still have plenty of room for those of you that would still like to continue purchasing dong. And as I mentioned before, is our processors at the Texas Processing Office, they're giving us more room because as we continue to go on, they continue to expand and develop their funds, and their funds grow, so there's more that's available. So yes, you can continue to buy more dong. All you need to do is send me an email request. I need to have it on file that you requested it, that it came from you, and then I send you the link that you can pay, for using any debit or credit card. And the default is 5 million dong at $312 is what it is, but you can have it as low as 1 million dong for $62. So even at 62 bucks. Now, I have mentioned before, if you have friends and family who might be interested, yes, you signed a non-disclosure agreement, but folks, I'm not concerned about the non-disclosure agreement of you sharing this to friends and family and spouses and stuff like that. The main purpose of the non-disclosure agreement is to keep this from going public on a large scale. That is what we don't want for our own safety and security. We don't want this public out on a large scale, but I have no problem with you sharing this with friends and family. And if they're not so certain about it, have them again go to my website, thesedonaconnection.com, click on the workshop content videos, and there they'll see and hear everything about the program, and then they have to send me an email request for whatever it is that they want. So that's the scoop. All that is still open. So yes, it was about 3 weeks ago I had commented that our brokers had said there might be something coming up toward the end of September to the end of the year. We're not there yet. We're still only in mid-month. We might still have another week or two before we hear anything about that, because they usually report at the end of the month. So don't go be emailing me and asking me about any updates. For when I get the information, I will send it to you in an updated newsletter. I always give any updates that I can in newsletters, so don't go emailing me asking me about any new news or anything, okay? Because, folks, remember, I have almost 9,000 people on my newsletter list, and I don't have time answering all these, requests of information when the information is available here in the programs and on my website, okay? Thank you for understanding that. So, now, what's going on here? In the last couple programs, I've been talking about, the power and the control of the money system. It's really important that we understand this. We live in a world where these controllers that control the money supply through the Federal Reserve that are called the Khazarian Mafia, it's important that we understand this process. Why? Because they would like to stop us from receiving these funds. Now, everything I've been told is they can't stop it. They know they can't stop it, but they are going to want to try to create chaos. And they can create chaos with individuals who don't follow the instructions, who open themselves up, who openly talk about this. That's why we want this in a non-disclosure environment, because we don't want the world knowing you're getting all this money. You don't want the whole world to know that you just got $7.5 million. Believe me, you would get swamped with requests. People would be attacking you all over the place, and you would become a target of the cabal to create absolute chaos in your life. So it's important that we know that this is very likely going to happen, and it's important to know that there is going to be opposition, but it's also important to know they can't stop us. This issue is not in a position to be able to go globally. Now, once the funds are released, folks, believe me, You can't keep that quiet. That's going to get out into the news around the world, but we don't want them knowing who got the money. And that's for our own security and protection, okay? Now, as I've mentioned, these people that control this system, Ben Fulford calls them the Khazarian Mafia. And if you do the research on the history, you know who they are. And the Khazarian Mafia are basically the Rockefellers. Because it's the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds that run and control the money system in this world, this current fiat money system. The Rothschilds pretty much control what goes on in Europe, and the Rockefellers pretty much control what goes on here in the United States. And if you think they haven't controlled what goes on in this world, they control the presidents of the United States. As an example, this is what most people don't know, and this has hardly ever become public. The Clintons, both Bill and Hillary, are both Rockefeller descendants. They're both Rockefellers. Hillary is more recent. Now, my impression was that was a fixed marriage of two Rockefellers that are very distantly related, but they're out of the Rockefeller clan. It was a planned marriage to have them so that they could run and control the system through both of them. And they did that when Bill was president, and Hillary was supposed to follow up, and Trump was the guy who broke it up. And why do you think there is so much attack on him from the establishment, from the deep state, from the Khazarian Mafia? Because he broke up their control system. They couldn't control him. I've mentioned this before. I remember watching the 2016 Republican primary debate, and there was something like 6 or 7 candidates up there, and all of them had been raising money except Trump. And the other 6 candidates other than Trump, they were all very credible, elected Republican officials, former speakers of the House, former senators, you name it, they were all there. But there was one that had outraised the other 5 or 6 combined, and that was Jeb Bush. So what you saw was they had set it up that they wanted Jeb Bush to be the next president, because what they do, you can't get to be president without raising scores of millions of dollars. And so how they control it is they control who can raise the money. And they were controlling the raising of the money, and Jeb Bush, as I said, had outraised the other 5 or 6 combined, not counting Trump. Okay? Now, that was that example. So there you saw the control of the Clintons through the Rockefellers. You saw the control of the Bushes through they're being able to raise the money, and also the Bushes were in step with the Nazis out of World War II, because remember, Prescott Bush was a Nazi, their father. George Bush's senior's father and junior's grandfather, he was a Nazi. Okay? Now, let's go on. Let me tell you a little bit about Obama, how again the power and the control of the system. Some of you may have heard me say this before. I remember seeing this on Facebook, and it got taken down, and it has never been back, and obviously they don't want this appearing. Very, very few people know who Obama's grandfather is. And this is hard to believe until you see the evidence of the documentation and the photos. Obama's grandfather was none less than Adolf Hitler. You heard me right. Adolf Hitler was Obama's grandfather. Now, how did that happen? Well, history says, Hitler committed suicide. He didn't commit suicide. The evidence is overwhelming that he and many, many other Nazis, they fled to Argentina, and Argentina was their safe base where they could live out their lives in safety. And the story goes that Hitler continued to live in Argentina, and he died there as an old man. He had a wife in Argentina, and she had they had four daughters between them. The first three were very well known, and again, it shows you the power and control system that these Nazis were still doing. One of the daughters, Angela Merkel, the former Prime Minister of Germany. The other, I'm going blank on her name right now, she was the former Prime Minister of Great Britain. And the third daughter was the former Prime Minister of Liechtenstein, one of the other small countries in Europe. So you've got the first three daughters of Hitler and his wife out of Argentina all ended up being prime ministers in European countries. And who was the fourth daughter? Obama's mother. Obama's mother was Hitler's and his wife's fourth daughter, born in Argentina. Now, the fact that he's black and that she married a black man was all a complete setup to be able to try to disguise that issue. So what we see here is a system of power and control by these elite. And here's the positive thing. We're seeing this coming out of the reports of Ben Fulford, and also it's one of the reasons why the funds are being released through everyday common people like us. It's designed to take down that power and control system. Ben Fulford says it's already on the way. The Khazarian Mafia are already on their way out and they know it. And some of them are trying to negotiate for peace settlements so that they won't be executed and they just want to quietly live out the rest of their lives. So that's really, quite amazing when they have that. So that's the issue there. Now what I want to do, I want to play a couple of videos again about how the money system is the power and control of the money system that we have here in this world. So let's watch this first short one. Oh, the sound. Where's the sound on this?
It is very clear that the head of the snake is the financial system. We can argue till the end of time about who runs the world. Is it the reptilians? Is it the Illuminati? Is it the Freemasons? We can go on and on and on and on about this, but I don't think it is reasonable to even begin arguing about the mechanism that is used to exert this control. The mechanism is finance. The whole point of finance is to indebt, otherwise to enslave. What is a mortgage? I mean, what does that stand for? It's a death grip. So when you get a mortgage, you have a death grip held over you because you are in debt. You don't even own the house. The bank owns the house that loans you the money to buy the house, unless you're fortunate enough to have all the money to buy it outright. And even then, you can be taxed by the government, and if you fail to keep up with those taxes, the government can then take it from you. The whole system is based on a financial fraud, which effectively takes the power that we have, and it gives it to a tiny group of individuals who are running the world through the control of finance.
It gives the power and control to a small group of individuals who run and control the world through finance. Now let's look at another video. This one's about 10 minutes long.
Once you start waking up from the hypnotic trance of the official lie, the word "they" is often used to lay blame on the perpetrators. This is usually followed by the question, who are they? According to ancient history, religion, mythology, and occult tradition, they are not human. And they have been manipulating humanity from the shadows for millennia. The Gods of Eden by William Bramley does an excellent job of tracing this back through all of recorded history. But let's just start from the late 19th century. Just over a century ago, it was known that giants with red hair and double rows of teeth once inhabited America. These 9-foot-tall giants were written about casually in 1874 by Abraham Lincoln. A few years later, the Smithsonian Institute began confiscating giant mummies and skeletons by the thousands. In 1886, the exclusive Jekyll Island Club was founded and built upon an ancient burial site of the Timucua tribe, who were said to be giants. In 1910, the Federal Reserve banking conspiracy was hatched on Jekyll Island between the Rothschild banking dynasty and the Rockefeller family, whose cabin there was known as Mound Cottage and said to have been built upon a sacrificial altar. These powerful families worked together to hide the truth of our mysterious past And they built a modern society with poison to keep us dumb and lies to keep us confused. The Rothschild dynasty and the Federal Reserve banking system funded all sides of the First and Second World Wars, which paved the way for the creation of the United Nations in 1945. Funded by the Rockefellers, the UN was the beginning of today's de facto world government. The Nuremberg trials resulted with only 12 sentenced to death and 7 sent to prison. The majority were allowed to professionally continue their criminal activities. Nazis who were tried for medical experiments involving cruelty and murder were later brought into Big Pharma through Operation Paperclip. And an entire team of Nazi rocket scientists were brought in to start NASA. While the Nuremberg trials may have been mostly theater, they had their revelations. It was revealed that the Nazi eugenics program stemmed from organizations in America funded by the Rockefeller Foundation and its offshoots. And it was revealed that many high-ranking Nazis believed they were in contact with an alien race known as the Aryans, the same mythical race that allegedly created Hinduism as it is known today. While many Hindu scholars dismissed the claim, the Nazis believed it. It is why they adopted the popular Hindu swastika. They also studied the Vedas, and their most classified project, the Bell, had the same design as the Vimana spacecraft described in these ancient texts. In 1971, a young Klaus Schwab, son of a Nazi nuclear scientist, was placed as the head of what is now known as the World Economic Forum by his mentor, Henry Kissinger. In 1974, Rockefeller protege Henry Kissinger wrote National Security Memorandum 200 for the United Nations. This is popularly known as the Kissinger Report and is one of the foundational documents of the depopulation agenda unfolding today, with Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum acting as the tip of the spear. And so who are they? Several will say it's the Rothschild family, but they seem to work for the crown. Others argue that the Vatican holds more sway. Many people insist it's the Jesuits, and some swear it's the Jews. According to occult records, a character named Sanat Kumara rules over the world from inside the earth, along with a group known as the Great White Brotherhood, 7 in total. Helena Blavatsky says these 7 Kumaras are the same as the 7 Dhyanis, the 7 archangels, and the 7 Elohim, the 7 representing the 7 sisters, also known as the Pleiades star cluster. NASA, which was started by Nazis, Freemasons, and Satanists, has been obsessed with both Pleiades and Orion ever since the Apollo moon missions. According to hundreds of alien abductees, that is where most aliens claim to be from. 2 different factions, one to help liberate humanity and the other to enslave us. It is the oldest story on Earth, good versus evil, the darkness and the light, the white hats and the black hats. It is a struggle within each one of us and is unfolding in the world around us for all to see. A more beneficial inquiry might be, who am I? Meet Oliver Schwab. He is the managing director of the World Economic Forum. His sister, Nicole, is a member of the executive committee for the World Economic Forum. In July of 2021, she said that it was a huge opportunity to have their Great Reset.
I see it as a tremendous opportunity to have this great reset and to use this huge flows, of money, to use the increased levers that policymakers have today in a way that was not possible before.
Their father, Klaus Schwab, is the founder of the World Economic Forum. 7 years ago, he announced plans to start tracking the entire population and merge everyone with a central machine, what he now calls the Great Reset. The Schwab family is working together with other families because that's how Team Evil works. You can call them the Illuminati if you like, but they have no official name, and they are not illuminated. There is no telling how many family bloodlines are involved, but they keep it in the family for 3 main reasons, and they all have to do with power. First, and most simply, as a way to gain and maintain their fortune. Secondly, is to carry out long-term secret objectives. These families use insurance companies and private trusts to protect their own fortune from the fiat debt-based system that they created, and to generate the kind of money needed for a 100-year plan. The older generation outlawed natural medicine, introduced petrochemical pharmaceutical drugs, and polluted the environment. And now the younger generation is here to fix it with their totalitarian Great Reset. It's a multi-generational plan that works because of family loyalty and also because of the third reason why they keep it in the family: trauma-based mind control. Most victims of the CIA's trauma-based mind control program, MK Ultra, have come from families with a history of child abuse, because multi-generational child abuse makes a child more susceptible to mind control. And most of the characters we see as world leaders are not only actors on a stage, they are oblivious because they have suffered a lifetime of abuse and mind control. The overwhelming majority of people on Team Evil are not all in on it. They simply do as they are told. They follow orders and they don't ask questions. These families see having children as a means of gaining power and wealth. They see their own children as property, as slaves to do the family's bidding.
Be nice for you.
But perhaps it's more like a cult than a family. Nearly 1 million child orphans were distributed throughout America and the Commonwealth in the late 1800s by an international secret society called the Odd Fellows. Delivered primarily by train, many of these orphans were born in private homes owned by the Odd Fellows and their offshoot, the Daughters of Rebecca, an all-female Masonic organization that featured symbols of mass breeding and fertility. Philip Eugene de Rothschild says that the Rothschild family alone has produced over 100,000 children in these secret breeding programs. Most of the U.S. presidents during this time were Freemasons. 4 of them were Oddfellows. And at last count, 34 U.S. presidents are directly related to Charlemagne, King of the Franks, who is believed by these Illuminati bloodlines to be of the Merovingian bloodline, a genetic set that they highly value. And Team Evil has always been obsessed with genetics. So it really isn't that strange to point out the similarities between Justin Trudeau and Fidel Castro, Angela Merkel and Adolf Hitler's mother, Barbara Bush and Aleister Crowley. The only way these families and their abused mind control minions are able to control the rest of us is by dividing us. And if we the people could change that, then we could change everything.
Okay, interesting video. Let me share a couple other interesting issues again about the power and control of the system. What most people don't know, you have to look at what is called the power of the American Education Association. That's the teachers' union. The teachers' unions run and control the public education system here in the United States. You can't make any changes hardly at all to the system without it going through their approval. Guess who started the American Education Association? The Rockefellers. Because they knew if they created a public education union, they could control the education system in the United States. And if you notice, the education system, it's not about enlightenment, it's not about awakening, it's not about ascension, it's not about being, strong, powerful individuals. It's all about history and math, etc., blah, blah, blah. That doesn't really do anything for our personal development. That's an education system that they wanted to establish to give them this false control. And then the second thing that a lot of people don't know is the Rockefellers started the American Medical Association, so they control the medicine industry. They control the health industry. And we all know that the Medical Association isn't about getting us healthy, it's about making money first. It's a for-profit industry first and foremost, and health is a secondary issue to that. So those are the things that we run into, and the reason that I'm sharing this with you is you saw their power and their control over the money system in the video. They're losing that power and control. And so there may be some desperate things that are going to be coming up in the near future. There are a lot of different what I call inside intelligence sources that are saying be prepared for the fact that we may end up having a fake UFO ET invasion to create fear, which then allows them to have power and control over our system. Can you imagine if all of a sudden the news started coming out in the mainstream media left and right that we've got all these UFOs showing up and that they're in opposition to us and they may start attacking and we have to defend ourselves? Look at the fear that that would create to the sheep who aren't awake. Because you want to control people, you control them through fear. And they have always known that, so they always create these fearful events to control the people. Now, they control it because they control the education system, they control the medical association system, and they control the money system. And that's how you have power and control over the masses here on this planet. So this money that is coming through us, its primary purpose is to start neutering that power and control system. Now, they aren't going to get rid of them overnight, but the reason that there's scores of thousands of us receiving this money through the exchange is because you can't control the world when all of a sudden you have 60 to 80,000 multimillionaires overnight, because we all get to say to the current Khazarian mafia system, we don't need your money and you can't control us anymore. We collectively have the ability to take control of the money system within our world. Now, it's a step-by-step process. That's how it's been explained to me, but that's the real purpose of what's going on here. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share in the program tonight. If some of you would like to call in and you got some questions or comments, the number there is 515-605-9356. Again, 515-605-9356. You can just you dial that number, you press 1 on your touchtone phone, and it brings you up here on my screen saying that you'd like to come online. Oh, I also forgot to mention, yes, we're back with workshops. The workshops are going to be back. It's in about 3.5 weeks. The first one is going to be in Chicago. I had put it on the internet there, the information about all of that, about the workshops that are coming up. So folks would love to, I know a lot of you have always enjoyed them. The workshops is where I get to share more in detailed information that I can't share basically on the internet. So it's a really, really good information source. You get the really good full big picture of everything that is going on. And I've always said this. When it comes time to getting paid the funds, I start with the most recent workshop attendees and work back from there. So you folks, if you get into these workshops, you're going to be right at the very front of the line when it comes time to get paid. So I'm not seeing anybody requesting to call in tonight. I mentioned that maybe about 1.5 to 2 minutes ago, and there's maybe about a 15 to 20 second delay before you hear me. So I'll give it about another 10 to 15 seconds, and we'll see what comes up there. But other than that, as I say, folks, all is well. Again, everything is well here in my home for me, in my Sedona, and in my world. And it's always nice to be here on the program with you. So, we did have somebody that just came up. Area code 403. I'm going to bring you on the air. Okay. Area code 403, you on the air. What can I help you with?
Hi, Dave. It's Carolee calling from Calgary, Alberta.
Okay.
I just have a actually two questions I can ask. Are you still planning on coming to Canada, to Toronto? You had mentioned it maybe a few months back. I'm just wondering if you're still planning to do that or not.
Yes, I will, but that'll probably be in maybe springtime that I'll be coming to
In
Toronto.
spring?
Yeah, probably sometime in the spring.
Okay.
I've scheduled 4 workshops through the end of the year, and I don't have anything specific beyond that. But yes, Toronto is on the list.
Okay, sure. Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay.
And my second question is just a little, just as regarding timing. You've been talking about us having to wait for the system to collapse before things get rolling as far as receiving the funds. But I'm just a little concerned about, you had mentioned about mailing a check, and if the banking system goes down first, I was just a little concerned about the money and how we would cash our money if we're going to, be using the old system and there's no new system in place.
When I say that, well, first of all, I can't. That's been past information about the system collapsing. The whole banking system isn't going to collapse because we have to have a way to be able to buy goods and pay our bills and run money through a bank to do that. So what I mean by the banking system collapsing, you're going to start seeing maybe a lot of large banks going out of business, and that ends up being transferred to another way. So the whole system itself doesn't collapse because we will always have to have a means to pay our bills and buy our food and stuff like that. There has to, see, money is a form of barter, and the banking is the intermediary of the barter system. Now, I don't have an exact answer about how the funds are going to be released. I do know the people at the Texas Processing Office will understand that. We'll get guidance and direction from them on the best and the safest way to do that, to have funds to you. I do know that at some point in time we will set up a credit union, because that's a very good, safe way to have all of our money in a place that we own it and control it. And it's a safe system to use. But we want, as of now, what I'm seeing is there might be an initial check that goes out to you to give you some immediate funds, and then it takes some time to get the credit union set up, because it could take a month or two to set up the credit union. See, so we don't know yet.
I mean, that's all fine if that's, everybody's keeping that all in mind. As far as there's really, a timing thing when you look at it. Like, I understand the checks would be mailed, and then if we did have issues, we would at least have some cash on hand to get through to the next, whenever things get, fixed.
Sure.
As far as the banking system and the credit union that you're talking about.
Initially, instead of mailing the checks, we would probably send it to you as a money wire to your bank account.
Okay.
And it might be somewhere in the area like $100,000 is what it might be. I don't know yet. I don't have the exact answers. As I said, the Texas Processing Office, they're working with lots of others, and we're going to get advice from them about what is the best way to get the funds to you in a safe manner. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I just was curious about the timing. So, so thanks for that, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, good night.
All right, good night. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I don't see anybody else that is wanting to call in, so I think that's about it, and we're probably ready to call it a program tonight, folks. So thank you very much, and we'll see you again next week. Okay, all right, bye-bye.